Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your weekly host for this series. And I'm so excited that we get to share this space together. Last week was a holiday, so we had a smaller group, and I missed a lot of you. So, welcome back. Today is going to be a really It's probably going to be the most personal session that we've had, where you're going to learn the most about me, my heritage, things along those lines, where I come from, what I've learned. And my hope is that it inspires you to connect deeper to your own roots. So, with all of that being said, before we dive in, I'm curious, what are your roots? Like, where does your family come from? My family comes from Puerto Rico and Italy. I haven't done Ancestry or 23andMe because it's like, it's such a ridiculous reason why I haven't, but I haven't personally because I don't want to be told that I'm not 50-50. I love being 50-50. So I'm just going to live in my own little world and be like, yeah, I'm 50-50. But drop in the chat. Let me know where your family comes from. That's going to be a pretty big piece of what we do here today and the conversations that we have. I am currently different background again. I'm currently in Puerto Rico as we speak. I'm on vacation, but I literally can't help not host it, or I can't help but host Motivational Monday. Like, I love that we get this time together, and oh my gosh, it makes my heart so happy. I love that we get this time together. So for me, making sure that we still had this time was beautiful. So we have Italy, Argentina, Chile, Italy and Spain, Germany, Denmark, Holland, Eastern Europe, Ohio, via Ireland and England, Canada, Europe, Russia, Ukraine. Fun. Oh my gosh. Mexico, Texas, Spain, London, Ireland, Caribbean, Irish, English, Scottish, and French. Finland, Austria, England, and Ireland. I love it. Look at you guys know some of your roots. It's so beautiful. How amazing. So I'll be in Puerto Rico next month. Can't wait. Oh, we're missing each other. Ireland, Sicily, Germany, probably more. Seriously. So can you guys hear the construction in the background? Let me know. You can just type yes or no in the chat. Let me know if you can hear it. They're building a really beautiful house. Okay, perfect. They're building a beautiful house, but it's loud, at least on my end. So I'm glad you can't hear it. So, where do I start with this? Well, yeah, this is gonna be a big storytelling motivational Monday. And then I have a surprise for you, and something that most of you probably have never seen or experienced. And it kind of makes me nervous, and it's definitely vulnerable, and it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. So I'm Puerto Rican and Italian. My mom is 100% Italian. My dad is 100% Puerto Rican. My dad wasn't in the picture that much growing up, and we lived about 10 minutes from my Italian grandparents. So I grew up Italian and I loved it. I grew up in a really white community, and I don't have any judgments or biases or anything along those lines. These are just like the facts of my story. So you can get an understanding of me and where I've been and what I've experienced and how it's brought me into this place. But I grew up in a predominantly white community, a lot of Italians. I was in upstate New York. I was making wine every September with my Italian grandfather. I had his homemade sauce recipe. We were making focaccia and we were getting basil from the garden, like straight Italian. My grandfather came over right after World War II. He was in World War II. And then started his life here. So he is like pure Italian. And that was most of my life. Because I didn't have a connection that much to my dad and his side of the family, I never really had a deep connection to my Puerto Rican side of my family. The only time I was here was for my eighth birthday. I have a twin brother, if you don't know, but me and my brother celebrated our eighth birthday here. There was a family wedding happening and we were on the island. But other than that, never really had any exposure. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to learn a lot about my story. This is crazy. So, I didn't really have a deep relationship with my dad at all. And then one day, he almost died. his heart rate went down to 1 beat per minute. He's had heart things, he's had stints and other things. And I was like, dang, if my dad passed away today, I would feel so unresolved. And I didn't, how old was I at this time? 24, 25. So I didn't really have a lot of perspective. I was still on my independent find and cure part of my journey. I was running a business. I was focusing on my business more than I was focusing on the relationships in my life. And this was a huge change for me, where I was like, whoa, regardless of the way he did or didn't show up, he did his best. And me personally, all I can do as a grown adult is take responsibility for the parts of our relationship that I have responsibility for. And I did not expect to feel that strongly um, about him like going through something like that, but I did, and it shocked me. So I started journaling. I journal every morning, and I was like, I want to have a better relationship to my family, not just him, but my whole family. I want to be a better daughter. I want to be a better sister. I want to be a better friend, just all of this. And 2 months later, out of the blue, my dad calls me, and we at this point we were maybe talking like once or twice a year for maybe like 20, 30 minutes. He calls me and he's like, the whole family's going to Puerto Rico. Do you want to come? And I'm like, well, I've been journaling about this for like 4 months. The answer is obviously yes. So I came to the island in April of 2023. And it was so easy being with my family, and it was so easy being on the island, and it was so easy um, just being here. And I've always said I was an island girl. I thought I was going to move to Maui like 5 or 6 years ago. I was on Maui and I was like, oh my gosh, I love volcanic islands. I was thinking about the wrong volcanic island. I was supposed to be thinking about Puerto Rico, but I didn't know better. So I was here and I actually got really sick for maybe like 2 days. I had a fever, I had a pounding headache, I couldn't eat. And I'm already a pretty spiritual person. We will do a series of Motivational Monday where we get more into the spirituality of things and the ritual of things and the ceremony of things. But I'm already like, everything happens for a reason. Everything has a deeper meaning. There's nothing that is just casual. Like everything matters. And it doesn't, like, even if I take the wrong turn, I'm like, oh, this matters. There's a reason. And maybe the reason is because if I didn't take that turn, then I would have ended up in a car accident, or I would have missed a beautiful connection that I was supposed to make, like something along those lines. You have no idea. So I'm very much the type of person where everything has a meaning. So I'm sick and I'm on the island, and I growing up with divorced parents, you hear a lot of stories and you take on some of those stories and you make them your own, especially if you don't have the ability to write them yourself. So the fact that my dad wasn't in the picture, I heard a lot of stories, but I didn't get to create a lot of my own. So now I'm on the island, I'm with the family, I'm writing my own stories about my family, and I'm like, wait, you all are so cool and you're so fun and you're so lively and you're so amazing. And I literally had to get sick to like purge out the mental thoughts and the stories that I had in my head for most of my life that were never mine. So I was like sick on the beach, like sick, could barely move. It was crazy. And I started tapping into my ancestors and tapping into their wisdom. And I knew I had Taíno indigenous roots. I had very slightly gotten into researching my roots a little bit more at this point. And I got home after that trip and I felt so at home on the island. And one of the things that happened was crazy 25-year-old Kira. I fell in love with a Puerto Rican man, came back like 3 weeks later. So ridiculous, but it was great. I learned so much, but I spent a significant chunk of that summer on the island. And what I learned is that all of these pieces of me that were always too much, too loud, too giggly, too bubbly, too loving, too sweet, too connected, were the pieces of me that never really had a home. All of my Italian pieces and all of the pieces of me that connected with more of my European roots made a lot of sense. But the parts of me that were more Puerto Rican that I didn't know because I was never around it, once I spent time on the island, I was, I felt whole in myself and I felt like I belonged in a way that I had never belonged before. And it's because like it was a half of me that I finally got to experience and that I finally got to explore. And even I remember wearing a crop top. It was like July on the island, like 95 degrees, wearing a crop top to go meet my man's grandparents. And I was like, "Are you sure it's okay for me to wear this?" And he's like, "Yeah." And like 20 minutes later, I'm like, "I feel uncomfortable meeting your grandparent or yeah, your grandparents like this in a freaking crop top. What?" And he's like, "What did he say?" He's like, "Kira, you're in the Caribbean. Look around you. Everyone's wearing crop tops. People are wearing the least amount of clothing as possible. It's normal, and you don't have to feel weird." And even my style, even my fashion sense has always been really different until I'm here on the island and everything starts making sense. So I get home after that and I start diving into my indigenous roots, and I actually come into a connection with an elder where I have the ability to become a Taíno songkeeper. Now, the Taínos are the indigenous people to the Caribbean. The Caribbean is one of the first places that Christopher Columbus came through, and the Taínos were known for being sweet and affectionate and just giving and nurturing and loving and kind. And we kind of got massacred. It's okay. But what happened is those of the Taínos that stayed alive, they ran up into the hilltops and they went through a paper genocide, which is where on censuses, they never said that they were Taino. They always said that they were Spanish, and that's where their heritage came from because that's how they protected themselves. So fast forward 500 years later, I'm discovering my indigenous roots as a Taino woman, and I'm realizing that our culture was erased essentially. We don't have paper records, we don't have all of these things. If you watched last week's Motivational Monday, I was on an Indian reserve in Arizona where it was so well preserved, their culture, and it was so inspirational. So, in becoming a songkeeper, I also became a storyteller. And I also became someone who got to tell the stories of my people and got to share our roots and our connection. And it's been about a year and a half since then. And there are so many parts of myself that I understand on a deeper level than I've ever understood before. I understand the way that my family operates. I understand the way that I operate. I understand why my heart is as big as it is. I understand why I feel as deeply as I do. And the only way that I've been able to do that is through diving into my ancestry and my roots. And I know some people, I ask people sometimes, like, what are you? What's your nationality? What's your ethnicity? And they're like, I'm white. Or they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, do you have traditions from your family? Do you have songs? Do you have stories? Like, what do you know? And they're like, I know nothing. And it makes me sad because one, I know what that's like, at least for half of me. I always had strong Italian roots, but for my Puerto Rican roots, I didn't have that. But I know what it's like to walk through the world and not have a sense of self in a really, really, really deep way because our ancestral lines are our genetics. And these things get passed down to us and through us. But if we don't have an understanding of where we come from and what the traditions are and what our roots are, then we don't have an understanding of who we truly are at our core and why we are the way that we are and whose laugh we took on or whose nose that we have. Like I got onto the island and everyone's like, you look so Puerto Rican. And I'm like, I am. And they're like, yeah, but like you have your grandmother's nose. You have the nose of a Puerto Rican. And I was like, wait, I didn't know that. And it's little things. So I say all of that and I tell you those parts of my story to say that for those of you who aren't deeply connected to your roots and don't know and maybe haven't been to the lands of where your grandparents or great grandparents or even parents came from, then there might be a part of you that's still searching to find home within yourself. And it might be a small part of you, it might be a large part of you, it might be something that you've never thought of, it might be something that you've never considered before. But I see so many people who don't know their roots. And I feel like if you don't know your roots, you can't truly know yourself because we are an accumulation of everyone who came before us. And if you read my email today about Motivational Monday, there was a gift that said, like, wherever you're rooted or something along those lines, your life, it basically was saying, like, your life is more than your life. So, like, who you become in this lifetime and the work that you do are also the traditions that you get to pass on, whether it's through your own bloodline, your own children, or maybe it's family members or friends or things along those lines. And when you start taking responsibility for your own life and uncovering your own roots and uncovering your own journey, you get to come into a place of knowing who you are. And over this past year and a half of tapping into, tapping into these different parts of myself, like in this year and a half, I've got a best friend that I've had for 24 years. And he's like, he was on a cruise ship for a year of this year and a half. He was working on a cruise ship. So it's only been like half a year. And he's like, Kira, you are more yourself than I've ever seen. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm discovering myself and I'm uncovering myself and I'm learning the songs and I'm learning the dances and I'm feeling my literal bloodline in my body activate in a way that it never has before. And I know sometimes we live in a really whitewashed culture where we just are like, I'm white and that's it. But you're so much more than that. If you're German, imagine if like you found out where your grandparents brewed their beer and you went to their city and you went to the taverns and you learned about like the O'Malleys. I think that's Irish, but let's just pretend. I don't know the German last name. And you started diving in and learning about these other parts of yourself. It will unlock pieces of you. They say you have 7 generations of like DNA inside of you. So 7 generations above you already live inside of you. And you have the ability to uncover that and ask the stories and get the recipes. Like before my Italian grandfather passed away, I flew myself up to New York and I was like, I need your recipe for your sauce. I'm the only one in the family who has that. My grandmother was diagnosed with cancer last year. She's all good now, but before she went in for surgery and all the things, I flew down to Florida and I was like, give me your recipe for arroz gandule, Puerto Rican rice and beans, because I need to have it. I'm the only one in the family that has it. But now I get to keep those traditions alive. And even through my indigenous journeys, I've been in sweat lodges and I've been in vision quests and like all these wild journeys that I'm sure maybe we'll talk about in the future. But I get to bring my traditions to the table. And my elder lives in Asheville. He's not full, like he hasn't been on the island in quite some time. So before we stepped into a ceremony, I made my grandmother's arroz gandule recipe. And I was up in the woods for like 24 hours with nothing, just me and nature for 24 hours. It was crazy. But I came back down and he was like, it felt like I was home. And you don't know what your journey gets to evolve into, and you don't know what these pieces become in your journey. But the only thing that I'll say is that it's really important, and you will understand pieces of yourself that you've never understood before when you start diving deeper and learning and allowing yourself. And trust me, like I've got bad things that come from both sides of my family too. I also have great things that come from both sides of my family, but it gives me a lot of perspective. And I'm like, oh, cool. Narcissism runs in this side of the family. That's something that I'm not going to take with me and that I'm going to work really hard to change. But liveliness and bubbliness and family connection comes from this side of the family. And that's something I'm going to put into my heart even deeper. So that's my little share about diving into your roots. And all of that to say, I'm going to sing you all a song, and it makes me nervous. I'm very nervous, super nervous. So if you don't know, I'm almost always sitting on the floor. um, so this is a Taíno indigenous drum. It's made of wood. It's hollow-ish on the inside. It has the symbol. So this is in our culture, we have semis. We don't have gods or goddesses. And semi means sweetness. Like the Taínos were just known for being sweet like honey in general. But this is the semi. His name's Yucca. He's the semi of the harvest. Yucca is one of our like the foods that we had on the island that sustained us and brought us life and that we would use in ceremony. And then this one's Atabeda. She is like the founding mother of all creation, water, mother nature, everything. And then these are other Taino symbols as well. And every time I sing these songs and every time I dive deeper, I find pieces of myself that I never knew. So hopefully this serves as an inspiration to you, or maybe you just like hearing me sing, or maybe you don't like hearing me sing, who knows? But I'm gonna play a song. I actually don't know what the song means, but I know that it feels really good to sing. So that's how we're going to end this out. If there's anything that you want to share about your heritage or anything that you've learned or anything that you want to learn, please share it in the chat and we can talk about it at the end. But other than that, I'm gonna sing for you all. Okay, and you're gonna listen to me play. Ay, 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 dicen que el Libori ha muerto. Ay, 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 Libori no ha muerto nada. Ay, 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 dicen que el Libori ha muerto. Ay, 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 Libori no ha muerto nada. Ay, 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 lo que pasa con Liborio. Ay, 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 que no se deja engañar. Ay, 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 lo que pasa con Liborio. Ay, 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 que no se deja engañar. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 del cielo vienen bajando. Ay, 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 crepecita redonda. Ay, 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 del cielo vienen bajando. Ay, 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 crepecita redonda. Ay, 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 ellas vienen reclamando. Ay, 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 al mundo que se componga. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Okay, it went away. Ay, 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 ellas vienen reclamando. Ay, 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 al mundo que se componga. Ay, 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 ellas vienen reclamando. Ay, 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 al mundo que se componga. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 yo me llamo Tumbacoco. Ay, 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 no te vayas a propasar. Ay, 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 yo me llamo Tumbacoco. Ay, 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 no te vayas a propasar. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 que tenga su bojuco. Ay, 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 se lo voy a desatar. Ay, 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 que tenga su bojuco. Ay, 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 se lo voy a desatar. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 María estaba lavando. Ay, 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 el loro mero tendiendo. Ay, 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 María estaba lavando. Ay, 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 el loro mero tendiendo. Ay, 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 el niño estaba llorando. Ay, 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 Samuel lo estaba meciendo. Ay, 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 el niño estaba llorando. Ay, 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 Samuel lo estaba meciendo. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, 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 oh, oh, hombre. Ay, 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 hombre. Ay, ay, ay. So, that's a little bit About me and my ancestry, I didn't know how to do a Motivational Monday on the island on vacation and not make it work other than to make it a straight up ceremony. So thank you so much for being here. And Julanda left a really sweet comment. She says, I'm Navajo, so we have tons of traditions and things that we do in our culture. We sing, we dance, we have ceremonies for many things, care for our animals, tell stories, a bunch of others too. I'm so grateful to have learned so much growing up and having grandparents that taught me and my family so much before leaving this earth. This is beautiful. Thank you for sharing today. Oh my gosh, thank you all for receiving. That's a really vulnerable thing. I'm not a singer. Well, I've become a singer, but I used to not sing. I used to be really nervous about singing. I got made fun of by one of my parents when I was young, so it stuck with me. But yeah, I hope this inspires you to ask more questions. I hope this inspires you to dive a little bit deeper to understand your traditions, to just do some research to figure out where your people come from, where you come from, because you're not just you. You are everyone who came before you, and you are not, like, your life isn't just your life. Your life is for everyone who comes after you as well. So there's a level of responsibility that comes with the journey of realizing that we are, you know, we live in such an individualistic society in America, but at the root of it all, like, we are so much more than just ourselves. So thank you all for listening. Next week, I'm not sure what we're talking about, but we'll talk about something fun. It's a pleasure and a joy always doing Motivational Monday with you. Thank you so much for being here and for receiving me and for being really nice about it. I'm gonna go run off to the beach. And enjoy the rest of my day. I hope you have a great day as well, and we will talk soon. Bye, everyone.